Welcome everyone to Millennial TV. Today we are interviewing our very first cast member from The Hills Season 1. It's comedian, actor, filmmaker Brian Drolet. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Brian. We're obviously huge fans and we love hearing about any extra tidbits, behind the scenes stuff, so we're really excited to talk to you today about The Hills.
All right, well, thanks for having me.
We're going to bring you back like 20 years and try to dig in your memory of everything you experienced on the show. So be ready.
It's so crazy. It just doesn't feel that long ago. It's so surreal when I hear that number, 20 years.
Our thing is deep diving. So it's going to be a memory lane trip for you for sure.
All right, let's go. I'm excited.
So to start, we just wanted to know, did you have to audition for the show? And how did you and Jordan know each other? Did you guys come together as a package deal for the show?
Well, it's really, it's one of these situations where right time, right place. There was a little bit of serendipity to it. Jordan and I had met in an audition room. We were both with the same kind of talent agency in New York City. And we were auditioning for another MTV show called Damage Control, which was like a hidden camera prank show.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we both were cast on that show. It was funny. I actually went up to Jordan in the room. I didn't know him at the time, but he was wearing this like kind of stupid orange hat. And I was like, I was a total rookie and I had Breaking into Acting for Dummies, the book. And in that book, it's like, don't wear silly props into your audition. So I just go up to him, a guy I don't even know, and I'm like, hey, man, this book says don't wear that stupid hat you're wearing right now. And he's like, who the hell is this guy? And then we both ended up getting cast on the show. And it was funny because every time we would get cast, it would be as like a pair of this or a pair of that. Like we were two football players. We were two caterers. We were two Speedo models. Like they kept casting me and Jordan together. And so we kind of became friends just in that we were both getting cast on this TV show together. And so it was exciting. We were going out, in New York City to other castings and parties together and just kind of, living that life. And then randomly one day, one of the executive producers from that show contacted us and was like, hey, I think you guys should move out to California. There's a lot more opportunity out there for you. And coincidentally, like that same week, we met Lindsay Lohan and one of her best friends and I guess assistant at the time out in a nightclub in Manhattan. We were like, we're actors on this MTV show, which was Damage Control at the time. And they're like, well, if you guys ever move out to LA, you can stay with us and we'll help you get situated.
Stop it right
So
now.
we're
That's
just like,
amazing.
oh yeah, that sounds awesome. Like, so literally, I think later that week is when the MTV guy was like, hey, you should go out to Los Angeles. So that's all we needed. We packed up our bags and we road tripped as new friends to LA. And now we're staying, with Lindsay Lohan's best friend and assistant in this pool house. And next thing we know, all the Laguna Beach cast members are coming up to, I think at the time, Talon Torriero, who was from Laguna Beach, he was dating Lindsay. So Talon was Jordan and I's first LA friend.
Oh.
And, I never watched the Laguna Beach, or I was a little bit older. Like none of that like impressed me, for lack of a better term. So like we became friends easily because now looking back, I'm like, oh, they were like these teenagers that were becoming famous out of high school. So I don't know. Talon was like our little brother. I love the guy to this day. And that's how we met Lauren and Heidi, who were coming up to party with now Talon, who was in LA, and Talon was acting. And so Jordan and Heidi kind of hit it off in real life and were kind of being flirty and I guess hooking up. That's when Heidi was like, hey, we're doing this show. It's the spinoff to Laguna Beach. I'd like to set you up with Lauren, to me, or I'd like to set you up with Audrina, and, you guys got to be on this show with us. So it was ironic because we were already like in with MTV and working with them. And then they sent us in, after just partying with them in real life, they sent us into MTV casting, basically saying, hey, we like these guys for the show. And when we went into MTV, they're like, wait a second, we know you guys. Because if MTV casts you in one show, you're usually up on a board in their offices. So they're like, yeah,
Okay.
you were the guys from the New York. And so there was like a synergy there. So we just talked to them about, our relationship with the girls and what was going on. And Jordan signed up immediately. I actually turned it down because I didn't want to do reality television because I was doing acting and movies and comedy. And so I was so terrified at the time to get labeled a reality star that I said no. So they just started filming this show for out of the apartment I was living in. And everybody's telling me I'm crazy. You got to do this. And they kept saying, what's your apprehension here? And I'm like, well, I don't want to be labeled a reality star. And I want to be able to do all these other projects that I'm having opportunities with. So make a long story short, they said they would present me in a good light and as a working actor and comedian in LA. And they did film all that, but then they cut it all out. We were presented, we were told the show is going to be about young people in Hollywood, not necessarily about these girls. So we thought it would be like, I don't know, more like Entourage, and it became more like Sex and the City with the reality show version.
Yeah.
So that's how we got pulled into the show, and I eventually said yes because of how they said they would present me. And yeah, that's the origin story. And Jordan and I are still best friends to this day.
Oh, that's
I
so
love
sweet.
that so much.
Everything you just said is like, I feel like all of our dreams. Like you're tapped on the shoulder to be in an MTV show, move across the country, you meet a celebrity like while you're out clubbing, and then you end up being like best friends with them. You stay in their mansion of a house. Like amazing.
It is crazy when I think about it. Another fun fact is Lindsay and I have the same birthday. So they threw us a joint birthday party at the time.
Oh my gosh.
And it's weird too, because I had this weird relationship with Mean Girls, because I also, I do stand-up comedy, and I went on a tour with Daniel Franzese, who's also from the movie Mean Girls.
Yes.
Also knew Jonathan Bennett for a time there, had a bunch of mutual friends. So I don't know, there's a weird Mean Girls in the Hills were destined to combine or whatever.
I love every part of that. I love every part of that. It's amazing. I'm still stuck on Talon and Lindsay Lohan dating. I don't think I had realized that was a thing.
I don't think we knew that.
Talon was like a rock star. Talon and I did a movie together called American High School.
Oh my gosh, I have to watch this now. That is amazing.
Aubrey O'Day's in it.
Yes.
Alex Murrell.
Oh my
gosh.
We interviewed Alex Murrell.
I know. We interviewed Alex too.
So
nice.
So that's amazing. I love that so much. Wow, we are learning today.
Hey, listen, that's what I'm here for. Whatever you want to know, I got the dirt.
So how did you become interested in acting in the first place? Like, was it something you did in high school? Was it something that was brand new, you just wanted to try?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. This one is going to be a little, I guess what I would say is deep. I don't know if that's the right word, but well, first of all, I was always doing art and creativity from a very young age. But I grew up in a household with a mom who was sick. She had a disease called scleroderma, and it basically gives you 3 to 5 years to live. And so I grew up in a household that was very tight, very tense, very sad, and quickly I realized, movies and television, that was the ultimate escape from reality. And it brought so much laughter and joy into the house, when we would watch Seinfeld, or when I saw Ace Ventura: Pet Detective when I was a kid, I was like, that's what I have to do with my life. Like we put that movie on in the house, and we would just like die laughing as a family. And
I love that.
Just the way that I dealt with that trauma as a kid is I was like, I want to do the opposite of sadness. I want to be a part of joy, laughter, fun, creativity. And I already loved art and creativity. And actually I was an art major my whole life from a very young age. I was in animation camp, always painting, drawing. So acting was just another medium of art. And the funny thing that ended up happening was like being on the hills and acting in front of the camera opened up the world to me of like, oh, I didn't realize as a young person that the people making the TV shows and making the films were artists. And I was like, wait, I can write the scripts, I can direct it, I can edit it, So I kind of fell in love with the process behind the camera just as much. I mean, it brought me back to my art roots. But yeah, so my interest in art has always been a form of therapy for me, and helped me deal with the not so great things in life. It's like I can take something tragic and put it into a story I'm writing, or put it into a painting I'm doing. And for me personally, that is how I get through this experience called life. And so, yeah, that's kind of why I love doing art and the creative work.
That's awesome. I love that.
So cool.
I love where that comes from for you.
Yeah, and I love that you went deep on that question, because aside from talking about like the hills, we want to know about you as a person too. So I know that being like an actor, filmmaker, that's like the core, right, of what you do. Like that's what you identify with. So awesome for sharing. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah, I was like, oh, I got to get a little deep to answer this one properly, but we can go back to silliness right after, I promise.
So you said before that MTV told you that they were filming like more of your life as an actor in LA. So like what kind of things were you filming? Because you're right, a lot of that got cut out in the actual Hills show. But like how much of your everyday life were you actually filming?
Yeah, I mean a lot. It was filming a ton over 6 months, and there was a scene they shot. Well, first of all, the first time I ever performed stand-up comedy at the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles, they filmed. They were there. My dad was there, and it was like a really special moment for me because stand-up's been something for as long as I can remember that I wanted to do but was afraid to do. I've been doing acting and writing for so long. So imagine doing it your first time ever and MTV is filming you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And of course, all the other comics who had been doing it were like, who the hell is this guy? Like, oh, cool guy with the cameras. Oh, MTV guy, watch out. So I had a target on my back. But yeah, so they not only filmed me doing stand up, but they like filmed this. I remember this scene with my father and I. To this day, I would love to get the footage at the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood, talking about my mother, talking about my journey as an actor. They filmed Jordan and I shopping, at tons of different stores. They filmed me. I was a transvestite in a movie, and they came to set and they filmed me. And you want to know something funny? It had never made it, which is crazy to me. Because like, wouldn't you, me in drag, you got to use that footage, right?
Absolutely.
Well, here's what's crazy, right? So years later, the manager that I'm now with, who I'm really liking and is getting me some great opportunities. He's like, the first time I ever met you, you were in drag on a movie and MTV was filming you. And I'm like, how can you forget somebody like that, So we reconnected 20 years later, and I was like, that's so funny that you were there. But yeah, they filmed a lot of different things. And, the way they edited the show is like, they'll show us going out one night partying, and then they'll show the next morning talking about the night. But the morning is like 6 months in the future, and we're talking about a totally different night out. And what's funny is now that's one of my main, things I do in life is I edit tons of, movies and TV series and editing, and you can manipulate anything in an edit. So I'm like, oh, I would have done the same thing, because you're just trying to edit this thing to make it entertaining and sometimes create drama where there is none. And if I put in this shot of the guy going like that and rolling his eyes, it makes it seem like he's mad at her. But really that eye roll is from 20 minutes later from somebody else saying something totally different,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of that with the series.
And we ate it all up.
Yeah, we believed it all.
But I am like so shocked to hear that you were doing all of these things like the Laugh Factory and all, because they truly made it look like you were doing absolutely nothing.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And people think I'm from the hills. To this day, they think I'm from the hills and I'm rich. I come from Queens, New York. I have nothing to do with any of those kids from Orange County, but and then it's like we filmed one day for, I want to say, 5 hours, and then they're just telling me, Brian, say crazy things. So I say this one line. I'm like, oh yeah, Jordan, have you had a threesome with Heidi and Lauren yet? This is LA. Like, and that's what they use. And I'm like, oh God, now I look like such a jerk. It's like you filmed me for 9 hours and that's what you went with. And now for life, I'm that guy,
Yeah. We did see that and we're like, what a douche.
I know. We're like,
I would say the same thing. What a douche.
We just recapped that and we all were like, why would he ask that? That's so random.
Yeah. That's the type of thing. Imagine you're on that basketball court for 5 hours talking about a million things, and then a producer's like, say some silly stuff, and you're like, I don't know, what about this? And then that's the one thing.
They really get you.
I mean, and again, I don't blame them, because if you're editing the series, what's the thing that's going to get a reaction out of people? Not the benign stuff, but the thing that, will get a reaction. So it is what it, listen, I got off pretty well. I've seen people on reality shows where I'm just like, oh my God, like, did they forget the camera was there? Like,
when you guys were living in LA, you and Jordan, whereabouts in the city were you? Were you at the Hillside Villas or somewhere totally different?
Jordan and I lived at basically right near Sunset Boulevard and La Brea, which is like, just a couple miles from there. But Jordan basically moved in with the girls and was living there 24/7. And that's when, I don't know if you guys know who Andy Milonakis is, but that's Andy moved in. It was funny. It was like an MTV house. But so Jordan moved out with the girls, and then Andy moved in, and then Jordan ended up moving back in, and it was all of us, and then Jason moved in with us, and then Talon moved in with us.
So fun.
Yeah, it was like literally me, Talon, Jason, Jordan, and Andy. It was crazy.
How many people were meant to live there?
Well, that house was big. That we all chipped in and got like a nice house, so that had like 5 bedrooms, but still, it was like an MTV frat house, I would call it.
I am living for the fact that you guys were just hanging out casually with Andy Milonakis. Like, that's kind of amazing.
He's a great guy, but he would like literally throw cereal all around the kitchen and be like, well, the maid comes in a week. I'm like, bro, we're just going to have cereal everywhere for a week? What the hell?
I feel like that's on brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it was very on brand. But I love Andy. He's such a great guy, and he was a pleasure to live with. Cereal and all.
So I know you kind of mentioned it before, but so you started hanging out with Jordan and Heidi because they were dating, and then the show kind of all fell together. And
well, no, Jordan and I were hanging out way before the Heidi stuff. Yeah.
And you weren't friends with any of the other Hills cast beforehand, like Lauren?
No. Jordan and I had literally been in LA for about a week, and then that's when we were living with Lindsay's friend's pool house and met all the Laguna people. And honestly, the Hills happened within weeks of moving out to LA and knowing nobody.
Built-in friends.
So
what a dream.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy to think too that I didn't want to do it, and I said no. And it's like, I'm like, I don't want to be known as this reality star. And like 20 years later, I'm like, yep, it's Brian from the Hills still. So just, there's a famous Zen saying, what you resist persists. I'm like, well, there you go.
So true. And so from watching like some of these episodes, MTV they do show you and Jordan just like drinking, going out, getting hungover, like all the time while the girls are like working. Lauren's going to her internship, all of that. And I think there's a comment that you make while you're talking to the guys about like, people who work 9 to 5s, like who has like full-time jobs. So we're curious, what like were you doing during this time? Like, were you just going out and auditioning, or were you guys also working at that time?
So I know the comment you're talking about, and they said it's something about a job, and I said, hey, I have a job. I go out every night.
Yeah.
Like, just making a joke that my job is to go out. At that time, I was very lucky when I entered the entertainment business. I was booking lots of like commercials and little parts in indie movies and, just things that wouldn't make me like a famous person, but was enough to keep me to where I had an income. And to be honest with you, I felt very guilty about it because most of my friends were bartending and waitering and kind of struggling. And my struggle would come, trust me, but I had beginner's luck in that I was making a living full time from mainly commercials. And that was back still when commercials paid a lot of money. But yeah, so I didn't have like a job. I did wait tables, I want to say, from right when I got out of college for maybe about a year. And then that's when I started booking work and didn't have like a traditional 9 to 5 job.
Do you have a favorite commercial that you did from back then?
Yeah, I have a couple that could pop into my head. You guys might appreciate this since you're Hills fans. I actually booked what they called at the time. It was a global campaign for Sunkist soda, and Sunkist was rolling out this whole marketing campaign called Team Awesome, and it was myself and two other actors, and we were like the team that was Team Awesome, and my character, it's escaping me, but it was something like I was Captain Awesome or something like that was my name. And so they actually, Sunkiss would like fly us around. We would like announce bands at concerts. We filmed all these commercial spots of like basically imagine like a football game that, is sucky, or I don't know, it's got dead energy. And then Team Awesome shows up and all of a sudden there's balloons and cheerleaders and everybody, like that was like the commercial spots. But what was funny about it is we also did these live events where we would show up as Team Awesome and I was supposed to be Captain Awesome. But all the people, as we're giving them Sunkiss stuff, would be like, that's Brian from the Hills. So the Sunkiss executives were like, why are they not calling you Mr. Awesome? Like, why are you? And I'm like, well, I'm on the Hills. They're like, what? And like, it was just this total funny thing. So that was fun because it was like, it wasn't just one thing. It was a whole big campaign. But I also did a commercial for Bud Light, and that was so much fun because there was CGI and I was like battling alligators. I was in outer space. So those are some fun spots that come to my mind. There was a Miller Lite one that played a lot that a lot of friends from back home saw and sent me.
Those are big. Those are big to book.
Yeah, very big. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I was very blessed and lucky in the beginning and didn't even realize it at the time until those opportunities start to slow down or fade. And it was a fun time in life for sure.
And while you were on the Hills, did you get paid to be on the show? No.
What? Oh my gosh.
They offered us $1,000 to sign the contract for season 1, and I was so put off by how low that number was. And like I said, I was doing all these other acting things at the time, so I also didn't want to sign their contract. The contract was like this big, and it basically said they own you. And my manager at the time was like, you have too many other opportunities right now for us to just sign this to basically give MTV the rights to you. Now, having said that, I don't think it would have been the worst thing to sign it, but at the time it felt very scary, especially because like I felt like I was selling my soul doing a reality show, to be totally honest. Little did I know it would become this like huge thing. But yeah, so I turned it down and I ended up just signing a release form that said they could use my image. That's how I'm able to appear in season 1. But I never made a dime off the Hills. Which is crazy
so
when you really think about it.
That's insane.
I'm shocked by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
It hurts. It hurts
That makes me mad. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if that would still happen today.
Well, the thing is with like MTV and even Netflix now, who's going to say no to being the star of a Netflix show or the star of... That's why all the strikes were in Hollywood, is because nothing is paying like it used to. It used to be like if you did a guest star on a television show, not even were the star, if you were just a guest star, you could get paid a nice paycheck and then every time that episode airs, get a nice paycheck. Now these companies, all these streamers, they pay you just for your day's worth of work and then no residuals. So you could be on an episode of TV that airs a million times for the rest of your life and you only got paid, $500 for that one day's worth of work. And MTV was always notorious for paying less. It's kind of like it was the same thing in the modeling world. The bigger the magazine that you got to be on or be in, the less money it would pay. Not that I was that guy or anything, but from friends that were like more in that world, bigger the magazine, the less money. And it's kind of like MTV knows the same thing. They're like, if I put you on this show, you'll get opportunities to make money through the things that come with it. But that's also something at the time a lot of people don't realize and don't know. Like, if I were to get that same opportunity today, I would parlay it and create a lot of other opportunities around it. But there's also social media today where you can turn the following you get from being on a show into a business where, like, if you make t-shirts or whatever it is you do, you now have an audience to market to. That didn't exist back when we did the show.
That's true.
Which
So
really
different.
dates me, by the way. In my day, we didn't have social media.
Yeah.
Well, look who's calling me right now. It's Jordan.
Oh my gosh, so funny.
That's funny.
So we know that season 1 is the most real, but we also want to know how produced it actually was. So there's an episode where you and Audrina go on a date, and it ends with you going to her apartment. So was that date organic, or was it encouraged by the show? Like, how did that happen?
So there's been a lot of crap talked about me when this subject comes up on the internet. I will say this, because I'm also like a gentleman and I don't, genuinely gossip about girl stuff. But I will say this. Audrina and I were hanging out together in real life because, hey, we're filming a show together. I don't want to get into details as far as anything else, but MTV found out, these guys are connecting off camera. They told us, hey, stop hanging out and doing what you're doing and let's do it on camera. By the time they got around to filming us, whatever it was that was going on with us wasn't going on anymore. And there was never any sort of like bad blood, or we were just two young people filming a show and having fun, and our friends were seriously dating. So I certainly wasn't looking to get in a relationship at that time. I was actually still in love with my ex-girlfriend at the time. And I was like conscious about even dating a girl on television, to be totally honest. So my heart wasn't in dating anybody. And I don't think and if she was trying to get serious with somebody, I was not the guy. But what annoys me is somebody just recently on TikTok or something, like, and it's funny, she runs a fan account, and I did an interview for her when she first started, just like this, and then she kind of had this like rude tone on her TikTok, and she's like, Audrina wanted nothing to do with Brian. She was like, bye. And if she only knew, that whole date was basically an acting job.
Yeah.
We filmed me walking her to her door and kissing her. We filmed me not kissing her. We filmed me going in the apartment. We filmed me leaving the apartment. And what's even funnier about this is we did all of that at the beginning of the date, not at the end of the date.
Oh, no way.
What's even crazier about all of this is, and I love her, and I hope this doesn't go viral, and I probably shouldn't say it, but I can't say it. I just can't be that guy. But just know this. Even people that were there recounted the situation incorrectly. That's all I'll say. And I'm literally watching this and I'm going, well, they filmed so many more seasons. They probably like don't even remember this, whereas I vividly remembered it because I'm only there one season. So I just laugh when I see people talking about it in a way that's so far removed from the truth. I mean, think about it. At the beginning of the date, we're filming me doing multiple versions of taking her home. Every which way you could do it so you have it in the edit. And then there's people kind of, but I don't care. Listen, there's a little part of me that cares. I'm just like, don't speak on my name if you're getting this incorrect, people.
I love that.
So, you know what I mean? It's like, and then so it just is what it is. But so yes, Audrina and I were hanging out in real life because we were filming the show. It's like, hey, and we were all, imagine tomorrow we were filming a show with 5 people. You're going to go out and get drinks and be friends and whatever. But yeah, it was really all for the cameras, and and that's why when you see us after that, there's never like a scene of drama between us.
Yeah.
And actually they did edit a scene where it's like the next time our characters meet, it's so funny to me the way they edit it, because they do make it seem like I care, or I don't know.
She went on a date with someone and you were sitting
like,
at the
does
table.
He know? Yeah.
They weren't going to tell you.
But this is so after the fact of like this could be 8 months later, and like it's so far removed from anything I care about. Because again, I was never trying to date anybody because in my stupid brain at the time, I'm thinking I'm going to get back with my ex-girlfriend and I don't want her to see me on TV with these other girls and let people say what they're going to say. But when people that were there remembered incorrectly, that's when it kind of irks me just a little bit. But
makes sense.
It is what it is.
Understandable.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
But see, this is why I'm not good for reality TV. I'm not even going to tell you guys really what I want to say. So I don't understand how these people, well, because I'm like, I just, my parents raised me. You don't talk smack about people. And I just don't want to create a whole thing. But I've just definitely heard my name in people's mouths that just are remembering completely incorrectly. And it is what it is. That's what I'll say.
Man.
I know you said you were kind of still in love with your ex-girlfriend at the time, but did they film you going on any dates with anyone other than Audrina, or were you dating anyone after Audrina?
I don't think I went on any other dates that I can remember. Mainly they just filmed me with Jordan, Jason, my father, doing stand-up, doing the movie. No other dates. And if they had tried, like I said, I just really the whole thing, I was probably annoying to deal with at the time because I was so unsure about it all. I probably was like in my head on camera too. I watch people on reality television and I'm just in awe at how they seem to kind of just vomit from the mouth. And I'm like, I'm way too aware of like, I don't want to put that out into the world. So. But yeah, I don't think I did any other dates that I can remember.
And they didn't try to set you up with anybody else from the cast?
Well, initially, like I said, Heidi was trying to hook me up with Lauren, and I love Lauren. I've always been a brunette guy, just my whole life. And again, at the time, it was more of like, I didn't want to do the show to begin with. I was still in love with my ex and thought, I'm like, I'm not trying to date anybody. I'm not trying to do a reality show. So it's like whatever MTV got out of me and that crew got out of me was kind of begrudgingly, which I know seems crazy now. And there's a part of me that would love to like shake young me and be like, hey, you idiot, I could have done what Spencer did and milked the hell out of it and created drama and and just whatever. But that's just not me, so.
I hope we get to watch like whatever you film on the deleted scenes, because we do like a deleted scenes episode on our podcast where we go through everything that they have on there. So hopefully we'll see some of your material on there.
Oh, on the DVD, on the deleted scenes, the bonus features, they have my stand-up and
awesome.
I'm trying to remember. I think they also have me and Jordan. We did a tour of our apartment at the time. I think that's on there too.
How cool.
So yeah, it's out there somewhere. Although the stuff with my father, I would love to recover that stuff. Maybe one day, if I ever become successful enough, I'll knock on MTV's door and ask for footage.
Listen, if you have access to the vault at any time, please let us know.
You guys would be the first to know.
So we were wondering about when you guys would go out at night, like to the clubs. If you guys were under 21 and the girls as well, how did you get in? And when you would have like tables and things like that, was MTV doing that for you guys, or how did that work?
So I was 24 or 25 at the time, so that wasn't an issue for me. I think Jordan had literally just turned 21 before we moved out there. As far as the girls, I can't remember how old they were, but Jordan and I were friends with Frankie at the time, who ended up becoming a regular cast member. But in this season, he wasn't. And he really had the key to the city as far as nightclubs were concerned. So we were able to get into everywhere and to do everything without MTV. So now you combine that with MTV. They know a show is going to be filmed there and they know it's MTV. So breaking news alert to everybody watching this, people underage get into nightclubs all the time. Yeah. And especially if they have MTV cameras with them. Like, all right, come on.
Which means you never had to wait in that dreaded line where it was freezing outside. You got to skip it all the time.
I never wait in a line, nor would I ever. I would rather not go to a nightclub than if we can't get right in, then we gotta go somewhere. I'd rather go to a dive bar.
Honestly, you were living the life that was made for me. And I just was never there.
You had to move out there and move in with Lindsay's pole house to do it.
Obviously, I really missed out on this unique opportunity. After Jordan and Heidi broke up, did you continue hanging out with people from the cast? Obviously you did, because you were genuinely friends with like Frankie and that kind of group.
Yeah, Frankie, we were friends with, Talon, Jason, really all the guys. I would just say the girls, you're not going to hang out with as much because they were dating guys so yeah, we still hung out with the guys and, see Brody out at the club all the time, but the girls, not as much. And not because there was bad blood, but, we were connected because Jordan and Heidi were dating. So once they weren't dating anymore, it was kind of like, oh, all right, go our separate ways.
And were there any talks of you? I mean, after season 1 aired, you knew that it was like the 4 girls that they were highlighting on the show. But did they ever talk to you about being on like a season 2 or maybe being on some sort of like spinoff with you and Jordan, since MTV had such a relationship with you guys?
Yeah, no, nothing ever was said to us. It was kind of like, to be honest with you, weird, and it kind of hurt our feelings a little, but it's hard for me to kind of get upset since I was so anti doing it in the first place. So I would think that part of them maybe thought like, oh, he's out of his misery now, not doing this. But it did feel kind of like a little hurtful that they would never have us back or have us on another episode. I don't think right away, but I think over time there was just this feeling of just feeling like kind of used up and spit out. And I think what really was annoying, like anytime there was a reunion or something like that, it never included us. And then when they did the reboot, they never contacted us. And then we actually were out at a bar one night and the entire production team was in the bar. And they were like, oh my God, Brian and Jordan. And they were like, party with us all night. And we're like, you know what? We got to get you guys on the show. We're going to reach out. And they told us they were going to film with us. And then they just never did.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no. Man. That was one of our questions, was whether they ever talked to you about the New Beginnings. Because you're right. They brought literally like everyone that was even like adjacent to the show, and it would have been great to see you and Jordan on.
Yeah, it made me wonder, did I really piss them off by being so not wanting to do it? And I don't know if that's just my own thought or insecurity, or I don't know. It seemed like that night in the bar they were all about it. And just like the creative in me is, I would have totally brought back Brian and Jordan, even if it was for one episode. Like, it's all about nostalgia and seeing old faces. And so it is what it is. I think it was a missed opportunity on their part, but obviously I'm biased. Hey.
I mean, dude, they brought Misha Barton on the show. Like, they were reaching for anything, you know?
I know. Well, the other thing that's crazy is when it came out, I think simultaneously, season 1 of The Hills was on Netflix at the time. And what I learned and was learning is nobody had MTV anymore. So nobody was seeing New Beginnings because nobody had cable anymore. So more people were watching the season 1 being released on Netflix than New Beginnings on MTV. And there was just a little bit of like, I was like, oh,
yeah.
I will say that New Beginnings was not made for true Hills fans. Like, it did not feel like a Hills reboot. It just felt like a cash grab or like a, like real quick thing that they were doing. Because we didn't get any like payoff. There was no
authentic storyline.
Yes.
Yeah, I know the cast was really upset about it too. Like, because me and Jordan, we went and did Frankie and Audrina and Brody's podcast. They just weren't happy with the direction of it as well. So I don't really know what happened there. It just seems like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
After season 1 was aired, were you recognized a lot in LA? Like, what did your life look like after that?
Yeah, it was insane. I'm not gonna lie. It was like being a Beatle or something. It was everywhere we went. I mean, everywhere we went was overwhelming. It got really overwhelming. Like just you'll be out at a cafe eating lunch, and when you get up to leave, you realize the 15 people in the cafe were paparazzi and they were just pretending to
Oh my
eat
gosh.
and
Wow.
following us through the Grove and other LA places. And looking back now, it's easy to kind of process it all, but at the time, it was impossible to process because it was new and just coming at you so fast every day. But when you're on a show like that, everybody wants to be your friend or call you or text you or be at the party you're at. And everybody wants to, like, you're being inundated with invites. And if you're like a good person or whatever, everybody that's like giving you energy, you want to give them something back. And I find it's impossible. You're inevitably like, I have friends now that knew me back then. They're like, you were such an asshole back then. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, how was I an asshole to you? But what they didn't realize is when you have 50 people calling you or texting you in a day, you can't get back to all those 50 people.
No.
It's such an overwhelming, like everybody feels like they know you from watching you. So like I would be places and people are like, hey Brian, and I didn't know if I'd met
Oh.
them in real life or if they knew me from the show or
Yeah.
it's a very bizarre, naked feeling thing to be in the spotlight and you really don't realize it until you're in it. And I just can't even imagine how crazy it is with social media and smartphones now.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it was overwhelming, and it was like that for a good, even though I was only on season one, for a good 3 to 5 years. Where and still to this day, I'll be out and people will recognize me, but back then it was way magnified by like 100,000 or something.
Hmm.
Oh wow. Did you feel like being on this show helped or hurt your acting career in the long run?
That's a very good question. I think it helped me big time for numerous reasons. When I was in the spotlight because of the hills. Like now I know as somebody who produces movies and makes content, anybody making content, the people you want in your project are people that have a large following or are on a hit show or so even though somebody might be on the hills, if they can act and do the part, then great. This guy's great for the role and he has some popularity for that show. So I immediately started getting cast in a lot of independent movies. So I was getting opportunities, but I also had been in acting school for many, many, many years. So it wasn't like I was some reality star getting thrown in, something I couldn't handle. So I was getting opportunities because of the notoriety from the hills. And then through all those opportunities, not only did I learn parts of the business that I never would have been able to have access to had I not had that level of access, so to speak. Like, let's say I acted in 20 independent movies in the course of 3 years following The Hills. Well, most young actors are lucky to get cast in one film, let alone 20. So I got an education with that, not only as an actor, but as a writer producer. I started writing and producing my own stuff using all the stuff that I learned from those opportunities. So I think it did a lot for me in that all those projects that I was getting cast in and had access to, that was an education that would be priceless that I could never, I think, like right now, currently in my life, I'm extremely happy. I'm working for a production company. I'm writing films. I'm directing. I'm editing. I'm acting. I'm doing all these things that I learned over 20 years. And The Hills was like hitting the turbo button at the beginning of my career that gave me like many opportunities. So yeah, so I think it was a good thing for me, and I don't think I'm so recognizable from the hills where people see me and they go, "Oh, Hills reality star." I feel like if anything, I have just a familiarity where people are like that guy looks familiar. Like, where do I know him from? And I
Mm-hmm.
prefer that over someone looking at me and just thinking the hills, which
Yeah.
those people exist for sure, but
Yeah.
not as strong as like a Brody or these people where you look at them and you're just like the hills.
Absolutely. So did you move to Florida to like continue pursuing filmmaking?
I moved here because, and now we got to get serious for a quick moment again, but we'll bring it right back to silly. My father, unfortunately, was battling cancer for the last many years, and things really started to get worse in the last couple. And so I moved here to be close to my dad, to take care of him, and spend as much time with him as humanly possible. Sadly, we did lose him a few months ago, and
Sorry to hear.
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that. And I assumed that I basically dropped my life in LA and I dropped I guess you could say my career on many levels, just to be there for dad. And then it's like almost like God or life or karma, whatever you want to call it, wanted to reward me or something for that. And I was doing a lot of stand up comedy down here in Florida, just trying to stay connected to, the creative arts, the performing arts. And I ended up getting cast in a movie down here from doing stand up. And then I told all the people on set, I actually have a background in all this stuff and I actually edit and write and blah, blah, blah. So I sent the company my scripts, my editing reel, all my stuff. And basically now I'm working with this company. We've got a really cool, exciting new project coming out. It's called Our Family Pride, and it's a series that follows a guy who's like in his 50s and he comes out later in life to his family. So it's like it follows him and his family and how they're all dealing with their dad, who they now know is gay and is dating men, and where does that leave their mom, and it follows them past and present. And then we have more projects in development. So I ended up now, I'm like in a dream position where I'm working with people I really love and care about on projects that excite me, that I want to be doing. I'm being empowered to do all these things that I learned living in LA for 20 years. So, yeah, so I moved here for my father, but it ended up giving me this amazing opportunity with a production company here, which is the last thing I ever expected. So it just goes to show you, if you're listening, it's kind of like the plot of Sweet Home Alabama, right? Like life is going to throw obstacles at you that might seem like obstacles or bad things, but little do you know, it's the beginning of a new chapter and a new beginning, right? So I'm in Florida right now. Thought I would have been back in LA already, but I moved to LA to make movies and TV series. So if I'm doing them here, I'm going to stay here for now.
That's awesome.
So cool. Do you like living in Florida better than LA? I'm sure it's very
Oh
different.
my God. LA, I don't know where y'all are, but LA has become a hellhole. It has become a third world country. I'm sorry to put it so bluntly. Homeless people living everywhere. And I love all these people online because they're like, well, through complaining, bye. Like, I'm in LA. Listen, I love LA, right? But when there's 20 homeless people shooting up meth on the block and an old woman coming out of the grocery store is getting stabbed with a knife, something's wrong. And LA just became really dangerous, crime, it's dirty, and the industry moved out of there. Like, like I think only 18% of film and television is done in Los Angeles. Every audition that I have these days, I put it on camera and I send it in over the internet. So I'm still auditioning for all sorts of things, but it's never in person anymore. So I'm like, why do I have to live in this city that's dirty and really kind of, after COVID, LA was never the same in my opinion. And I'll always have love for Los Angeles. And who knows, maybe someday if, things go so well here and the big studios are like, hey, Brian, come out to LA. I'll always have a soft spot in Los Angeles. But right now, I am enjoying how clean Florida is. There aren't crazy people on drugs everywhere I look. It's a little warmer too, which I actually really like. So I'm really enjoying it here so far.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if it's home forever. I don't know. I'm taking it day by day.
I know you've been doing your production and doing different series, and you're still acting. Is there anything else, like non-career wise, that you've been up to? And is there anything else you'd like to promote that you're working on for our listeners to find?
Well, what I would love for anybody listening to this, I would say check out and please share on your social platforms. We made a movie called Be Like Trees. This movie was made with just an iPhone. No budget, no crew, no lights. The whole idea was like, what can be done creatively with just an iPhone? And I wanted to take everything I'd learned making movies and put it into this. And I play myself in it. Jordan's in it. He plays himself. Frankie's in it. He plays himself. And it's about life after the hills, I guess you could say. It's about trying to make it as an artist. The movie honors my late mother, and it's kind of really all about the plight of artists and what we go through. It's one of my most proud things I've ever done artistically. So definitely, I would say check that out on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think of the film. If you like it, please share it. And I still would love to get the word out about it. It's free. You can also check out a film that I made called Dumbbell Special Edition, which is on Amazon, and it's also on YouTube, I believe. I think somebody put it out there for free. And follow me on social media at Brian Drolet on my Instagram, TikTok. I'm the most active on my Instagram, though. That's where I kind of post anything. Keep your eyes open for Our Family Pride. It's a 6-part series that hopefully will be coming to Netflix or Hulu very soon. There's so many more things, but they're down the line that I'll be working on. But yeah, follow me on social media. Check out Be Like Trees, and don't believe everything people say about reality show characters.
And we have our very last question here. Our podcast is called Millennial TV, so we always like to end with this question, which is, what is one thing you miss from the 2000s?
Not having back pain like I do now. That's a personal one.
That's honestly so
good.
Yeah. I think I'd have to say I miss life before smartphones. Nowadays, it's like, I admit it, I'm like everybody, we're all hooked on our phones. And like, I can't tell you how many mornings I wake up and I have to consciously go, stop scrolling and like, let's go here. Like,
Yep.
And so I kind of miss a time before social media. I miss MTV. I miss TRL.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's ironic, it's like we were almost more connected in the sense we were all watching the same thing at the same time back then. And you really don't get that. We're all over the place now. So I think the thing I would think I miss the most is, Friday night or Tuesday night, whatever that night was that show you loved was on.
Mm-hmm.
I missed that sense of like we're all in it together and watching it together. So I think that's what I miss the most. That and no back pain.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was really fun. And yeah, I'm glad we got all this insider information.
I know,
and
I love
just
it.
really awesome to hear about what you're doing in your life and everything. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Thank you. It was
Thank
so
you
nice
so much for your
meet
time.
you.
Yeah.